Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to use today as kind of a tutorial moment as well as a learning chance for myself as we take a look at one of the critical moments I think that we're looking at in Bitcoin. There are a lot of other things going on in the S&P 500 as well as the rest of the market indexes, which we will use to kind of round off the rest of our ideas at the end of the show. But for now, let's take a look at Bitcoin and the Wyckoff distribution chart. So first off, what we're looking at here is a distribution schematic. So this is we'll get further into the Wyckoff events and phases over the duration of this, but what I want you to take a note is phase A, B, C, D, and E as we continue down. And notice currently phase C would have been a retrial of the test and a multiple range top of resistance lines. So if we go over to Bitcoin here, let's make sure everything's streaming smoothly. Perfect. I do believe it's working. It's always a little bit new to the streaming game. It feels like somehow they're always updated just as I'm figuring it out again. So what I'm looking at here now is my kind of hand-drawn version of this Wyckoff phase and distribution schematic. And here you can see we've tested the top resistance lines twice. Now I could move this bar down, but it's close enough. And as you can see, during phase A, we came up once, tested that resistance bottom, came up again, tested the first top, the resistance bottom, came up, tested again this extra top, and then the bottom. So I'm new to the Wyckoff distribution method, but what we're looking at here is a very similar relationship. Now, both the distribution schematic and the accumulation schematic can kind of turn one into the other. So this is where we're going to take the moment to now look at who Wyckoff was. He was back in the 1800s to 1930s. He was a pioneer in technical approaches for stock market trading. He was started a magazine called The Wall Street, had more than 200,000 subscribers at the time. From his position, Mr. Wyckoff observed numerous retail investors repeatedly being fleeced. Consequently, he dedicated himself to instructing the public about the real rules of this game as played by large interests or the smart money sided. Now, one of the things here, this is a fantastic little section that they've written up on here on stockcharts.com, so I'll give them credit for that. But what we want to look here at first is the accumulation. This is normally where you will see a breakout, and there are different variations of this, but again, this is just a rough sketch of kind of what this looks like. Accumulations are areas where you've hit a bottom, and we can show a recent token that's been doing that, and then the distribution phases are where you break down and move down. Now, I've actually seen what I thought was a distribution schematic right on the top of this UTAD test or the LPSY test right here. And again, the breaking down here, last point of supply tests here, where if it closes above the resistance line, then it will continue to break out, right? So you're using these resistance lines as an area to understand the potential for the trade. Now, currently, what's happened in Bitcoin is we've broke down below this line. Now, these lines aren't definitive, right? So we don't want to actually make a play up until a secondary part of this phase starts to take place. So in phase D here, we would be closing below the 21-day moving average, this white line here. And we would be coming down to test around 8,900 here, where you see on the volume profile, we have a big gap here between 9,400 and 8,800. So currently falling below this 21-day moving average would be around $9,400, as you can see on the side here. So what we're looking for is a volume close on the daily below this 21 moving average, and then a move into phase D, which would be just a bounce off the top near the top of this support line back into the middle of the channel of phase D, and then back down to point C here at around 8,400. Now, if we can continue up here and we actually break out above this box, and this invalidates this section, and this is the other side of this potential that I want to look at. So first off, know that technical trading is your ability to improve the probability of getting something correct when you're trading. It's not a prediction model. What it shows you is the trends. You want to follow them. You don't want to try to predict them. You want to follow the trend. That's what all the algorithms are doing as well. And I think that's what we've been seeing a lot more of lately, are big algorithm traders in the space. That's why we see these massive spikes up and quick volume sells down. They know they've been accumulating at a box range somewhere around 8,800, maybe to even 9,000, right? They've got a box range here, and they try to get that last little bit of sell feature to come in by instigating hype in the retail market sector. That's why you see these really big spikes up and spikes down. These are algo trades trying to just skim a little bit off the top, right? And also be able to sell more on the upside to the average investor that's getting hyped up in the moment. We're like, oh my God, Bitcoin you'll never see it below $10,000 again. I don't even know how many times I saw that posted on Twitter over the last few years. And this is one of the things that I really like about trading and investing, is that when you realize you have so much time in a market, there's no reason to just rush and throw everything at one thing and go like FOMO in any mentality of the word. So this Wyckoff distribution method here that we're looking at is new to me. This is actually a trade style that I've never really used before, but we've gone ahead and a few days ago for the private bear group, we actually posted this and a little bit of our breakdown. So you can follow us on TradingView. This would be a great time to do that. It's just an area where we're producing some of our charts. Makes it a little bit easier to share with the private group as well. And also remember to like this video as well. YouTube actually is going to need some love from everybody, so leave some comments and some likes so we can try to get back in the game here. I'm going to only be posting financial, trading, investing, and business or philosophical wealth stuff. No more political talk over here. I have no real invested skin in the game, so it's not worth it for me anymore to speculate on things like that where I don't really have an investment in them, so it's not worth me even speculating. So here is the breakdown that we wrote the other day. Again, these come out as frequently as I can possibly post them. And here is a one on the fetch, the accumulation one that we were looking at, phase A, D, and then E. So we made an entry on this the other day that had done already a 12% gain, and I actually suspect we'll get another 40 here out of fetch, although I've got a really tight stop loss. I just want to show that this was an accumulation version of this Bitcoin trade, which was the distribution. Now again, in this area here, if it starts to break above and stay in these top resistance lines, and especially if we see the 21-day moving average move above this resistance line, it's going to be a key indicator for me that we've taken that second route, which means that the S&P 500, the rest of the markets are going to continue up. Now, they broke out of what was originally a bearish rising wedge here and then are starting to break down. So again, what I'm really looking at here is the overall sentiment of the market. So here's another version of the Bitcoin channel that we had been watching. And what I thought was important here too was to see this rising Fibonacci channel that we had been testing and testing our supports and resistance of. So you can see on the volume profile here, we've got a large amount of support and resistance right around the $8,700 area. So as it looks like we might be closing below this 21-day moving average on Bitcoin here, coming down to test this $8,600 area right at the bottom of this channel seems likely. Now again, what you want to do is not build a prediction model, but build an understanding of the most probable aspect of what is going to happen based off the markets, because everyone's kind of watching the same thing. I think a lot of people are looking at this Wyckoff distribution model right now, and if they aren't yet, they're now going to be, because that's what we're sharing. No, I'm just kidding. There's I think in as many times as possible, you just want to try to educate yourself, especially as a trader or an investor, about as many of these things as possible. It's one of the reasons why I love reading Nassim Taleb. He's just such a fantastic options trader. It's really kind of mind-boggling to see. So again, just to clarify, I believe we are in a downtrend. But if we're not, and we see the 21 moving average move above, and we continue to see the S&P 500 move above, I'm going to think that the money printing is just going to continue. So a big question in my mind right now is, do we see just complete insanity in the rest of the markets and see everything start to move up regardless of where we are? The tech sector has been doing really well. We saw Tesla over $1,000 yesterday. It's just been kind of a wild week in the markets. So even though, a lot of the times when I'm charting, when I'm looking at the S&P 500, I'm trying to figure out what's going on in the dollar, because these are all relationships to the sentiment of Bitcoin. Now, there's an overall aggregate. I can understand that there's a lot of people that are just going to start continuing to accumulate this, and this is going to drive Bitcoin's price up over the long term, right? So ultimately, I'm at a really, really interesting point in my trading strategy here where I can't tell if we're going up or down, because the realm of sanity, the realm of fundamentals in the market itself are gone. So technicals and almost everything is kind of out the window at the moment. So take everything with a grain of salt, but there's a lot of reason to believe this is what we're going to see right now. I have posted it. I'll leave it like that. And again, if we're wrong, awesome. If we're not, awesome. Something learned. Right, so this is a really cool way to chart a model. The Wyckoff distribution stuff is really cool. Again, you can just type in Wyckoff method and you'll get this beautiful breakdown here by stock charts. Again, you're looking at a supply and demand relationship, and that's what I think fundamentally drives Bitcoin's price right now are some of the big game players like Grayscale. The retail market is probably a little bit silent. People that have assets already are likely diversifying, especially with these new recent highs in the market itself. I think this is a really unique time in the markets to be charting, because some things are reacting very well to the pandemic, right? We have seen Zoom, Tesla, Spotify, PayPal, Slack all do quite well the last month or two. I think Tesla, even, let's just for amusement's sake, from the low of the scare of March up to now, Tesla's had a 200% return, right? So technically, Tesla has had more upwards volatility than Bitcoin. And we know Bitcoin's limited supply. Now, we'll do another video where we go over Tesla, because I actually think Tesla is a fantastic play. We had posted about it in our private monthly newsletter. I think if you're in the traditional markets and not just interested in crypto, and look, I think companies like Tesla are very interesting because of the potential platform basis for ownerships of cars, etc., that they're building on is a very, very unique, forward-thinking idea. And Bitcoin is also in that area too. I like these emergent kind of technological platforms that bring more inclusivity over the long term for the average user and the everyday person. I think, Bitcoin, the entire blockchain space, is the hope for me still is that this provides that means to an end for bringing more financial inclusion around the world. So just briefly back here to the Wyckoff distribution method. And again, we went up in phase A. We touched the top here at the first resistance lines, again following these characteristics of the channel that we're in. We've hit this second UATD test at phase C, and now phase D is what we're looking at here. And again, if we invalidate that by the 21 moving average moving up, that's because someone's printing a shit ton of money. So I'm not saying we can't just keep going up here. I'm saying this appears more likely. So this is going to be kind of a break line for me, because this is going to bring a big move here, at least to $8,000. I would suspect with an 11% drop on Bitcoin, and if it goes all the way down to E here, which would be around $6,800, it'd be a 30% drop in Bitcoin. It'll be really interesting to see if we go that low. I'm not looking for that specifically. I think it's more probable to move our E line here back into the recent lines of support, right around 8,500 like this, and probably bring the C wave a little higher, which would be just above here, and this one just below here. So this is a much more likely scenario for the Wyckoff distribution phase. And then again, we can kind of redecide where it goes based off where it is in this particular structure. So if all of a sudden D breaks up here, it will say that we're likely invalidating and going to continue higher, right? So this is one of those areas where you got to keep a close eye on it, because these can shift into an accumulation phase, as we had seen here, that the distribution and the accumulation schematic doesn't necessarily mean we're in exactly where we say they are. These are just general guidelines for what this type of phase layout looks like. Anyways, I hope this has been helpful. If you guys have any questions about Bitcoin or the Wyckoff method, I think you can leave those questions down below. I will leave this stock charts link there too. If you guys think I did something wrong, if you think we're in another rising wedge, which there's evidence for this too. If you think there's something that we've missed, let me know. I love learning. This is one of my favorite things about investing and trading together, is that there's just so much to learn. It's kind of this endless process to, I guess, really get a grasp on how these types of things play out in the long term. And with something like Bitcoin, this whole new ecosystem of the crypto market, I'm very, very interested to see how they all play out together. That's why I'm always charting against Bitcoin's price, is because I want to see what assets do against Bitcoin, not assets versus the US dollar. I'm much more interested in the relationship of them to Bitcoin. So it's a beautiful thing to see the markets growing. There's a lot of positive news right now this is just a great time to keep an eye on it. If we see a change in this trend line too, if we break below this, we will probably move into a short trend. As you can see, anything in the yellow here are trend indicators, which are just moving averages that when they cross over, the trend changes. So actually, I could turn it on where you would see it. We have the 9 that would cross the 21 here. So if this 9 crosses the 21, this will be a short signal. And then again, if the 9 crosses the 50 here, or the 21 crosses the 50, this will signal even more downside. So we're watching these faster moving averages on the 9 and the 50 on the 20 right now, just very specifically for the change in trend at this particular moment. Anyways, let's deal with the Arcane Bear. Give us the thumbs up if you like this content. Give us the thumbs down if you don't like the content, because either way, YouTube is going to be happy that you gave us some of that energy. So the worst thing you could do is not like or dislike at all. Oh my God, I've said it. Yeah, that's right. So do your part and like or dislike the content. I really appreciate your guys' time today. I'm going to be jumping on and doing a little bit more TIHO token tangents. And again, after a little bit of kind of thought and process here, I'm just going to leave Arcane Bear focused on kind of financial investing, esoteric wealth, philosophy type stuff. And I'll probably still post music every now and then, but unless it falls in that niche anymore, I'm just going to kind of keep it. It'll be easier for me to manage in the long term. I made a video about defunding the government. What the hell do I care about politics? It has nothing to really do with me. I have no skin in the game. I don't want to be a politician. It doesn't sound like an easy or a good job. There's 100,000 other things I would rather do. I would rather have no job than be a part of the government. So I just won't make any speculations about those things anymore. It's not really worth my time. Anyways, thank you guys again for joining us today. Check out the Wyckoff distribution method. I think it's really unique. I think it's a great thing to pay attention to right now. And we will see you guys again on the other side. How's it go? I just go